The sun burned low over the arid plains of Kandahar, casting long shadows across the dust-caked military outpost. Sergeant Marcus Hall adjusted his helmet and looked out past the razor wire, where silence mingled with tension. The war had taught him to live in fragments: brief calls home, a few emails, memories tucked into letters stained with sweat. It had been 38 days since his last message from Alicia. He sat on a rusted cot inside the comms tent, brushing sand from his tablet screen. The Wi-Fi was weak, but a faint signal lit up his inbox. One new message. The subject line hit harder than any roadside bomb ever could. "I've filed for divorce." He read it twice, then again. The words stood frozen, sterile, untouched by emotion. There was no "Dear Marcus," no explanation, just finality. His chest tightened. He dropped the tablet on his lap and stared through the tent flap into the nothingness. Outside, a chopper blade hummed in the distance. He was still in uniform, still bleeding for a country that now felt a million miles from the life he left behind. But the betrayal had only just begun. 3 days later, in between a convoy and a supply run, Marcus found a rare few minutes alone in the mess hall. Laughter rang from the far table, guys talking about home, wives, football. He forced a smile and slipped his phone from his pocket. He tapped open the banking app. He had saved over $46,000, combat pay, hazard bonuses, every dollar he'd earned for their future. Balance, 0.00. He blinked, refreshed, still zero. No, he muttered. Fingers trembling, he scrolled through the transaction history. Transfers, withdrawals, ATM visits, all signed with her name. It wasn't just the money, it was the life they had promised to build. The house in Savannah they had picked together. The letters she used to write, calling him her hero. All of it, gone, like vapor in desert wind. "Sergeant Hall!" a voice barked behind him. He straightened. "Convoy leaves in 10. He tucked the phone away, nodding numbly. Out there, bullets waited. But nothing out there could match the wound inside his chest. He couldn't fight back yet. But one day, he would. 8 months later, Marcus stood at the arrivals terminal of Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta. The air was thick with summer humidity. Civilians bustled past him, their lives whole and intact. He looked down at his duffel. One bag. That's all he came home with. No one was there to meet him. His boots echoed across the polished tile as he headed outside. Every inch of home felt unfamiliar now, like he had returned to a stage where the play had moved on without him. Back at a cheap motel outside Augusta, he unpacked slowly. Letters, medals, sand-stained gear. Then he opened his laptop. A new message blinked at the top of the screen. No subject. The sender, Jackson L. Hargrave. He didn't recognize the name. Curious, he clicked. "Sergeant Hall, I believe we need to talk. I know things about Alicia and what she did while you were away. Meet me tomorrow. Starbucks on Broad Street, 10 a.m. He sat back in his chair, pulse ticking in his ears. Who was this man? And what did he know? The Starbucks on Broad Street buzzed with quiet conversation and the hum of espresso machines. Marcus walked in, scanning the tables. He hadn't slept much. His mind kept replaying that cryptic message. A man in his early 40s sat by the window, tall, wiry, with sun-leathered skin and a cane propped against his chair. He looked up, locking eyes with Marcus, then gestured toward the empty seat across from him. "You're early," the man said. "So are you," Marcus replied, sitting down. "I'm Jackson Hargrave, retired Navy. Saw your name in a court document, connected to Alicia Collins. Didn't know if you'd remember me." Marcus narrowed his eyes. "I don't." "You wouldn't. But I remember her. She used to come into my pawn shop. Sold your wedding ring, by the way. 3 months after you deployed." Marcus's jaw clenched. Jackson leaned forward. "She told me you were dead." The words hit like a fist. Marcus leaned back, stunned. "She told everyone you were killed in action, held a memorial. There was even a GoFundMe." "GoFundMe?" "How much did she raise?" Marcus asked. Jackson's expression darkened. "Almost $80,000. Marcus stared out the coffee shop window, cars blurring past like ghosts. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. A fake funeral? A fundraiser built on a lie? She used your photos, your rank, even showed your last letter on local news, Jackson said, sliding his phone across the table. On the screen, a grainy news clip played. Alicia stood at a podium, dressed in black, holding a folded flag. Her voice cracked as she spoke. He died serving this country. I just want to honor his sacrifice. Marcus felt his stomach turn. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Jackson paused. Because she tried the same thing with me, 20 years ago, different name, took my money, left me with a foreclosure notice. So you're, what, getting revenge? I'm giving you the truth, Jackson said, and a choice. You can let it break you or use it. Marcus stood, fist clenched, heart pounding. I'm not broken, he said quietly. I've been through war. Jackson nodded slowly. Then maybe it's time to bring her a little battle. Marcus drove past the white picket house on Pine Grove Avenue, his old home. Alicia's car wasn't in the driveway, but the porch light was on. The wind rustled the American flag that still hung near the front steps. Ironic, given how she used patriotism like a costume. He parked 2 blocks away and walked. Each step toward the house was a funeral march through memory. Sunday pancakes, her laugh echoing from the kitchen, the way she hugged him before deployments and whispered, "Come home to me." She knew he'd come home, and she planned her escape anyway. He crouched behind the neighbor's fence as a tall man emerged from the house, a stranger. He kissed Alicia on the cheek at the door. Marcus didn't blink. The man got into a black BMW and drove off. Alicia lingered at the door, sipping from a wine glass, then turned back inside. He stepped into the streetlight's glow. She didn't see him, but she would. Tomorrow, he would knock on that door, and she would learn that the ghost she buried was alive. The morning sun spilled across Pine Grove Avenue as Marcus stood at the door he used to call home. The brass number 132 gleamed above the frame, freshly polished, like nothing had ever gone wrong here. He raised his hand. Knock, knock. Footsteps echoed inside. Then the door swung open. Alicia stood before him in a navy robe, her hair damp, mascara half done. The wine glass from the night before was now a coffee mug that read, "Wifey." Her eyes met his, and froze. Marcus? She gripped the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Hey, Allie," he said, calm as winter. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. In a way, she had. "I thought you were," she stammered. "Dead?" Marcus finished, stepping forward. "Yeah, I heard about the funeral. Even saw the fundraiser." Her face flushed. "You don't understand. Save it." He pulled a folded paper from his pocket. "I've reopened the bank fraud case. And the GoFundMe scam? That's federal." She covered her mouth. "You're not the victim here, Alicia," he said. "You're the battlefield." Inside, the house looked the same, yet colder. The photos of their wedding were gone. In their place, pictures of Alicia and her new man graced the mantel. Marcus sat on the same couch where they once dreamed about their future. Now, he faced the ruins of that dream. "I was alone," she said, pacing. "You were always gone. I didn't know how to survive." "So you emptied our savings? Told people I died?" "I panicked, and it worked. People sent money. I didn't think you were ever coming back." Marcus laughed bitterly. "So what? You moved on? Bought a new life with a fake flag-folding ceremony?" Tears welled in her eyes, but he didn't flinch. "You betrayed me before a bullet ever could," he said. She sat down across from him, shaking. "What do you want, Marcus?" He stood, eyes locked on hers. "I want the truth, and I want every damn dollar back." She was silent. "Because if you don't give it to me," he said quietly, "a courtroom will." Later that day, Marcus waited outside the courthouse with a manila folder under his arm. Inside it, transaction records, screenshots, email threads, and a printed copy of the fundraiser page. He wasn't alone. "Is that him?" Jackson asked from the driver's seat. Marcus nodded toward the BMW pulling up. The man from the porch stepped out, tall, clean-cut, wearing a pressed blazer and sunglasses. That's Damien. She told him I was her high school sweetheart who died in Afghanistan. Jackson raised an eyebrow. She's consistent, I'll give her that. Damien walked inside, unaware that the ghost of Alicia's lies stood just feet away. Time for round 2, Marcus muttered. But what happened next, he didn't expect. Damien walked back out, moments later, holding his phone to his ear, face pale. Then he turned and locked eyes with Marcus. The man stopped in his tracks, lowered the phone, and said quietly, "You're not dead." The two men stood motionless on the courthouse steps, the spring breeze brushing between them. Damien removed his sunglasses slowly, disbelief etched deep in his expression. "You're Marcus," he said. "She said you died. I went to the memorial." Marcus nodded once. "I know. I saw the footage. You were there, right behind her, comforting her like a good, what? Boyfriend? Fiancé?" Damien looked away. "We're engaged." "Of course." A tight silence fell. "I didn't know," Damien said, voice cracking. "She told me she'd been grieving for years, that you were buried in Arlington." Marcus stepped forward. "And you believed her? You helped her spend the money?" "No," Damien said quickly. "She told me it came from insurance. I swear I didn't know about the GoFundMe, the bank transfers, none of it." Marcus studied his eyes. There was something raw there. Real. "Then help me," Marcus said, calm but fierce. "I'm not just trying to get my life back. I'm trying to make sure she never does this to anyone again." Damien looked shaken, but he didn't walk away. Instead, he said, "What do you need me to do?" The next morning, Damien met Marcus at a small diner on Wrightsboro Road. Coffee cups clinked, and the smell of bacon hung thick in the air. "I went through her computer last night," Damien said, sliding over a USB stick. "Emails, logs. She's done this before, twice, different names, different states." Marcus plugged it into his laptop, scanning folder names. One read, MH Backup. Inside were scanned copies of Marcus's letters, military records, even a forged death certificate. "I had no idea she went this far," Damien whispered. "She's dangerous." "She's methodical," Marcus corrected. "She planned this long before I ever left the country." As the screen loaded more files, a document titled Plan D Emergency Exit appeared. Marcus clicked. It was a detailed itinerary. Flights, cash reserves, a fake passport. "She's planning to run," he muttered. "She knows the heat's coming." Damien's hands tightened around his cup. "Then we've got to act fast." Marcus leaned back, the beginnings of a plan forming in his mind. "Let's see how she likes being the one ambushed for once." That evening, Marcus stood outside the same Starbucks where this all began. Damien waited inside with Jackson at a nearby table. Alicia thought she was meeting her fiancé for coffee. Instead, she walked into the trap. She entered, her black leather purse clutched close. Her face lit up when she saw Damien, until she noticed Marcus sitting across from him. The color drained from her face. "Marcus," she hissed. "What the hell is this?" Damien stood slowly. "Sit down, Alicia." She hesitated. Jackson, sipping his coffee nearby, tilted his phone slightly, recording. Marcus slid the USB stick across the table. "We know everything, the fundraisers, the passports, the stolen money." Her lips parted, but no words came. "Unless you want this to go federal," Marcus said, eyes locked on hers, "you're going to confess, on camera, right now." Tears filled her eyes, not of sorrow, but of a cornered predator. And then she whispered something no one expected. "Fine, but I'm not going down alone." The Starbucks felt colder now, like the walls had shifted inward, waiting to hear the truth. Alicia leaned forward, her voice trembling, but not from fear. "You want a confession?" "Fine," she said, eyes darting between Marcus, Damien, and Jackson. "I drained the account. I ran the fundraiser. I sold the ring. All of it." Jackson's phone caught every word. I did what I had to do to survive. No, Marcus snapped. You did what you had to do to get rich while I was dodging bullets. Alicia didn't blink. You think I'm the only one? The only military wife who realized she was just background noise in her husband's story? You were gone for years, Marcus. You loved that uniform more than you loved me. That uniform fed us. No, she said coldly. You fed the dream. I just woke up first. Damien stood up, jaw tight. So you used all of us? Her eyes narrowed. You think I kept your name out of things for love? I kept it clean so you wouldn't be investigated. If I go down now, so do you. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. Jackson looked at his phone. We got it. Every word. But Alicia just smiled. The video hit the inbox of a federal fraud investigator the next morning. By noon, an arrest warrant was issued. By nightfall, Alicia Collins was in handcuffs, booked under her real name and 2 known aliases. The news broke within hours. Military widow scam. Woman faked husband's death, stole thousands. Marcus watched the report in silence from his motel room, arms crossed. Damien sat across from him, pale and quiet. She said I'd go down too, Damien murmured. You've got nothing to hide, Marcus replied. You turned over the evidence. That matters. I didn't know her, Damien said, shaking his head. Not really. I thought I loved her. I thought I married her, Marcus said dryly. They both laughed, hollow but real. The next morning, Marcus got a call. It was his commanding officer. The Army wanted to speak with him about a potential role in a new veterans advocacy program. Public speaking, recovery, fraud prevention. He didn't expect that. Maybe something good can come from this, Damien said. Marcus looked out the window. Maybe it already has. But as the call ended, he noticed something in his inbox. One unread message. Unknown sender. Subject line. She wasn't working alone. Marcus's fingers hovered over the mouse. He clicked. The email was short. You don't know me, but I saw your story. I was her roommate in Tampa, 10 years ago. She had help then too. Someone who handled the fake IDs. A man named Victor. She called him V. She always said if anything went wrong, he'd make it all disappear. If she's in custody now, he won't be happy. Be careful. Marcus stared at the screen. Victor? He pulled up the files Damien had given him. Buried deep in the email threads was a name. V Solutions. A shadowy P.O. box in Nevada. A bank deposit for $10,000 labeled Exit Prep. Suddenly, the idea of Alicia being the mastermind didn't feel so certain anymore. He picked up his phone. Jackson, he said, we've got another player. You sure? She wasn't smart enough to do this alone, and I don't think this is over. Jackson exhaled. What do you want to do? Marcus's jaw clenched. Finish it. The address tied to V Solutions was nothing more than a gray mailbox in a strip mall on the edge of Reno, Nevada. Marcus stood across the street with Jackson, watching people come and go, none of them looking particularly suspicious. Think he's here? Jackson asked, tightening the strap on his camera bag. If he's smart, he won't be, Marcus muttered. But he's made mistakes before. The money trail led here. Inside the mailbox shop, Marcus handed over a forged subpoena. Jackson's contact in legal services had helped them make it airtight. The clerk hesitated, but eventually pulled out a thin envelope from box NUR 314. No name, no sender, just a flash drive. They walked out silently, hearts pounding. Jackson held it up to the light. We sure we want to open this? We have to. Back at the motel, they plugged it in. Encrypted folders, password protected, but one file was different. A video labeled, Protocol V, activate only if compromised. Marcus clicked play. A grainy video flickered to life. Alicia sat at a table, next to a man with salt and pepper hair and icy eyes. His face was clear, his voice calm. My name is Victor Lang, he said, and if you're watching this, you've made a grave mistake. Victor stared into the camera like he was speaking directly to Marcus. Everyone makes a choice, Alicia made hers. I gave her a way out, and she took it. I told her there would be risks. I told her betrayal comes with a price. He leaned back in his chair, folding his hands. The room behind him looked sterile. Concrete walls, a single light bulb swinging overhead. She got sloppy. That's not my fault. But you... He paused, his eyes narrowing. You're still alive. That wasn't the plan. Jackson cursed under his breath. Victor continued. If you're thinking about going to the authorities with this, ask yourself, what else is on that drive? What else might disappear if you push further? The screen went black. Then a folder auto-opened on the laptop. Inside, photos of Marcus, in uniform, at home, outside his motel, yesterday. Jesus, Jackson whispered. He's watching you. Marcus leaned in, expression like steel. Good, he said. Let him watch. He pulled out a small external hard drive and began copying the files. If he wants war, Marcus said, voice low, he just picked the wrong soldier. The next morning, Marcus was back in uniform. Not for combat, but for court. He entered the federal courthouse in Augusta with Jackson and Damien at his side. Alicia sat in the defendant's box, pale and broken. Her lawyer leaned over, whispering. She wouldn't look at Marcus. Today wasn't about revenge. It was about exposure, about justice, about making sure the next man or woman in uniform wouldn't suffer the same betrayal in silence. The prosecution played Alicia's confession. They showed the GoFundMe trail, the fraudulent documents, and finally, Victor's video. The courtroom buzzed. The judge called a recess, and a federal marshal approached Marcus. You're going to want to come with me, he said. We've been tracking Victor Lang for over a decade. What you've given us might finally be enough to bring him down. Marcus followed the agent down a hall, past a dozen closed doors, into a room with 2 monitors and a live satellite feed. Where is this? He asked. The agent pointed. Outside Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. On screen, a man stepped out of a black SUV. It was Victor. He looked up, straight at the camera, and smiled. The mission's not over. It's just gone global. Subscribe for the next season. Like the video, hit that bell, and tell us in the comments, should Marcus go after Victor or walk away for good?